Good morning, John Paul. How you doing, sir? You well?
Good morning, Joe. I am very well, and all the better for seeing you, man.
Oh, what a pleasure to hear that. Really, it's great to be sitting down with you. There's a few things I wanna go into, not least your upcoming new TV show. Talk a little bit about that. You know, what's involved, and you know why should people really care about this? There's 10 million talk shows out there, John Paul. Why should they care about this one?
There's 10 million talk shows. I tell you, there's two major things that stick out for this series for me. Obviously, I'm a bit biased because I produced the show. The first one is that I've had a look at all the national talk shows that are out there and some of the local ones as well. And what really appealed to me was I saw people like Graham Norton, Jonathan Ross. I've seen Lemon. I've seen a lot of people who are doing talk shows, even James Corden over in America. And I thought to myself, it would be brilliant if we had a really good TV host of a talk show that was from the Black community or from the urban community. We have got some good hosts, but a lot of those guys are on the radio. And we've got Big Nasty, obviously, with Mo Gilligan, but we don't have it to the degree of, you know, I'd say a lot of what other competition are doing. So I thought, one, it'd be great to have some representation from our community. Who talks to people from our community, but at a very high level. So that was the first thing. That competitive streak sort of rose in me, I think, number one. And then number two, I think what drove me to produce the show as well was, yeah, we've got people on there who are performers. We've got people on there who are artists, you know, singers, performers and comedians and so forth, entrepreneurs. But rather than just hear about what they do in their lives, I wanted to hear some underpinning values because, again, I watch a lot of stuff all the time. And at the moment, I'll get a sense that, you know, bubblegum rap and doing things to get into the media is quite common. Doing things to have a high number of views is quite common. But what I seem to have lost a sense of, or I think we've lost a sense of, is that underpinning sort of value, like family value, community value. Because how do you make that watchable? How do you make that sexy? How do you make that interesting? Even, you know, to some degree, you know, underpinning religious values that some people have. Who really wants to hear about that and makes that sexy at the moment? So I wanted to combine it in a way that made it interesting and still made it interesting to an urban community, but also you walk away with a sense that there is a work ethic in here. There's a family value in here. There's a value of community in here, you know, that without throwing it in your face. But that's what you walk away with after each episode. And that's what I wanted to do that was a bit different.
Sounds like you're after substance rather than, you know, out and out entertainment. It's a brave decision because, as you say, who wants to watch that? What's what is it about what you're going to bring to market? I guess that's going to swing everybody in that direction or engage with the audience that I guess you're trying to engage with. And who is that audience?
Yeah, I think it is an urban audience, or even beyond an urban audience. I think I've watched it with people from, you know, I've watched, you know, a pilot, you know, snapshot here and there from people. I've got friends because I grew up in Hampshire. So I've got friends in Hampshire. I've got friends in London. I've got friends all over the world. And I've watched little snippets with people and just give them a flavor and see what they think. So I think the audience primarily is going to be urban to start off with, but I think it could be universal. The reason being because there's a lot of elements of an urban community, you know, Black or otherwise, Black, Asian, that are celebrated in terms of culture and food, but not necessarily often in terms of humor. The last probably big show I remember that did it successfully was probably something like The Real McCoy. You might be too young to remember The Real McCoy, man. But The Real McCoy was in the 90s and they had Black, they had Asians, and they were a bit naughty, but you know, cultural. And you actually enjoyed sitting down watching that every week because it was entertaining. But there was a sense of value that underpinned each of those episodes. You watch it carefully, you'll see there was a sense of value. You might not have picked it up, I don't know. But it was kind of that idea which I thought of. But obviously the performers who come along on the show, they're not actors. They're performers who perform live. So it's not quite the same. But I wanted to get that sense. Do you know what I mean?
In terms of you, Jean Paul, what brings you to this space? You say you're the producer of the show. Is that what you've always done? What's your road to this point?
No, my background is my sort of journey started briefly. I grew up in a I'd call it a white, predominantly white area in Hampshire in the 80s, and came to London sort of back end of 80s, early 90s. And when I came here originally to study business and also to become part of a bigger Black community, because I'd grown up so isolated because of my color. I felt I really wanted to come here and join a Black community to feel one, like part of a network. And I came in, I realized that's not how life works. And the only thing that really moves you forward in life is to work hard. I wasn't a particularly hard worker up to that point, I don't think, but I learned a work ethic to try and blend into my community and make myself something part of the community. I then got married quite young, got married about 24, 25, and struggled on a little bit in a marriage for a few years, about 16 years, had 2 kids, got divorced. Before I got the final divorce, I went to court to fight for the right to have joint custody of my kids. Now, that fight took a few months. It got a bit dirty. There were social workers involved. It got a bit messy. But I did win joint custody. I say win. I did manage to get an order for joint custody of my children, who have been living with me practically since then. And so my value is really underpinned, I think, by me being a family man, by me being a single dad, a single Black dad, whichever way you want to categorize me. And that's where my passion is. That's where my self-belief, my confidence comes from, is me being a man who loves my children and loves my community that way. So that's been my fight. And then a few years ago, I wrote a book. I was struggling after being divorced for a little while. I wasn't comfortable being single. I wrote a book about dating, internet dating, and that got a bit of media time, ended me up on Channel 4 or Channel 5 somewhere, ended me up on Blind Date as well. They invited me on Blind Date to try and find a partner for me, so to speak. And then last year, the journey moved on a bit. I got asked to do a series called Strangers Making Babies, because I still hadn't found the one. I still wanted to have more kids. I still had that passion to have a family that was missing. I felt like an electric cable that was just like, kind of disjointed, looking for a place to spark, to get involved. I was hungry to have my, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air family around a table kind of thing, and that didn't really work out. And then this year, my journey's continued with going back to the beginning. I got interviewed last week by the Daily Mail. They've done a big feature about what really led to me wanting to have kids, which was going through the pain of an abortion. So, my journey's been very much about family. My parents are still together after 53 years, and I felt a bit of a failure, to be honest, by not having that complete wife, 2, 3 kids that I could say were my own, that I could get old with. So people say, "Oh, you look young, you look fresh." I say, yeah, because much as I've done the single dad work, it's not the same as being, hands-on all the time, being a husband and father all the way through. So I've had to find the way for me to be able to put that energy into my kids, my community, my values. I need to express it. So me producing this show is about me trying to express that love for other people through these artists and performers, to be able to show their community a work ethic and family values can get you so far. And that's my message, the underlying message that I'm trying to get out there.
What's your background? What's your heritage?
My family's from Mauritius. So, southern part of Africa, West Africa, southern part of Africa, just past the island Madagascar. And they've got a huge sense of family, very much like a lot of Black African families, divorce, failure in families kind of frowned upon. It's one of those stigmas. I went to a Catholic school as well in this country. You get a lot of subliminal programming. All right. I mean, I managed to erase a lot of that software, but ultimately, your journey with a family is the most blessed thing that you have. So I've got to find my family through my community. Even that means you, brother, I'm going to find a way to link with you or whoever it is. That love is what I need to give, because I had that, so I've got that in abundance, fortunately.
We all have. It's tapping into it, and love is always the answer. So
yes,
good luck on your journey. Bring it back to the show.
Yeah.
Who can we expect to see on there? And I know, I just want you to tell the audience what's the lineup looking like. If you don't want to tell everybody all of the episodes coming, give them the first couple that's going to entice them.
Right. So we got a few. So we got the very first one kicks off controversially a little bit, I think, and I struggled a little bit with this one myself, with White Yardie, the comedian. Now he is the departure from the tone of the rest of the series. So in some ways you think, why kick off with that one? But I think I wanted to do that one and get him out of the way because he is a hard worker. And, you know, there's a lot of interest in him, especially with what's going on recently in the media about his positioning and where he stands with culture and being Jamaican and so forth. So it starts off with him as a comedian, but then the rest of the artists are all black. So we've got a conscious rapper. Next up, we've got Two Badder, who's he went viral a couple of years ago and he's been doing a lot of stuff on conscious rap and expressing his views, activist views for his music. Got some great music out there. Then we've also got a bunch of other people as well. We got a guy who came over from Jamaica a few months back, went big up in Jamaica, called Invasion. He had a song called Them Gala Wicked, and that blew up in Jamaica. And they were calling him like the guy who's going to do the next Jamaican national anthem and so forth. And we've got a guy called Stammer Kid. These are dancehall artists. Stammer Kid's one of the funniest guys I've ever met, who's got an actual proper stammer. That's going to be interesting to watch him on a show, working his way through there. And he works quite closely with some of the other dancehall artists, Style OG and so forth. But we've also got, you know, people that are entrepreneurs. We've got a guy called Dexter Sims. Never short of a few words to say, especially at the moment when it comes to his passion about NFTs and the community. Charles Gordon, who I was at a meeting at last night. I'm not a politician, but I went there last night just to get a flavor of what's going on in his part of the world, and couldn't believe it. I could not believe the energy at that meeting last night. I've not seen anything like it. Came out of there with my research done, and they're trying to get me to run for political office in Croydon, which is crazy. But yeah, some good connections over there. And we got a bunch of, you know, people that are comedians. We got a group called Duty Paid, who are an Afrobeat group, and some of their music's gone viral on GRM Daily. And they are some of the funniest people I've ever met. They're producing a lot of good music. So there's a bunch of musicians. We've got some entrepreneurs. We've got some real heavy, strong characters who are not short of a word or two to say. Chris Preddy has also come along. Omar, you know, the singer Omar, the jazz singer who had a song written for him, I didn't realize, by Stevie Wonder. Such a humble guy. And all of these guys are performers. So you can expect them to come on the show and not just talk, but also perform. There's a freestyling component where they've just got to sing at the drop of the hat. And also we got a little game part in there to kind of test them. Some of them don't like playing games live because I think camera's watching me, I don't want to fail. So it's quite interesting to see performers there who have got to put their ego to one side and play something competitively. Some of the artists weren't too keen on doing it, but they've all done it. And it's strictly PG, man. There is not a swear word on the show. I don't know what happened, but when they came in, they realized that it was a family setup because I've got my kids on cameras, and they basically came in and they didn't hardly swear at all. I mean, you'd expect them to drop in an F word or something. Not at all. I couldn't believe it. So they knew it was a family show.
Well, good luck with that.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
And no doubt some of the loyal voice viewers, readers will see some of the clips across social media. We've got a few things lined up between your talk show and the voice platform to come. So we'll be sharing some of those clips in advance. Is there anything else you want to share with the audience before we go?
Not particularly. Just to say that, you know, it's the show is, you know, I believe you need to do three things really for an audience. You need to entertain them, you know, you need to educate them. Those are well, two things. I say entertain them and educate them at the same time. You don't want to feel like you've had a school lesson because you want to switch off a bit, but you do want to leave somewhere entertained, but feeling that you maybe learned something a little bit as well. And that is always the objective, you know, in each one of these episodes. And I look forward to the feedback, man, because, you know, we're doing the first series. Feedback from an audience is great because if we can do something better next time, let's do it.